This week, New Haven Mayor Justin Elicker urged his city to return to phase 1 of pandemic planning, which means no indoor dining. And across the state, the trends aren't going in the right direction for restaurant owners or their employees.
Joining us this morning, the executive director of the Connecticut Restaurant Association, Scott Dolch, and Christina Fitzgerald of the Union League Cafe in New Haven. Thank you both for joining us. And Mr. Dolch, let me start with you to explain for our viewers. We're in phase 2.1. Can you explain what that means for a restaurant? And are you satisfied with being in that status right now?
No, thanks, Dewey and Kevin, so much for having me. Obviously, we'd love to be, not have the rollback of 2.1. Obviously, we're in phase 2.1 right now, which has restaurants being at a 50% capacity. The events inside have to be 25 or less, including staff. Table sizes have to be 8 or less. Obviously, from our phase 3, rollout we had back in early October, now kind of rolling back to these a little bit more restrictions, obviously, for our industry. And obviously, we've lost outdoor dining in a sense with the weather that's out there now. It's making it even more challenging for our restaurants with these current restrictions.
Ms. Fitzgerald, your restaurant is in New Haven, so you're very familiar with Mayor Elicker's recommendation of phase 1, no indoor dining. What would that mean for your restaurant and for other restaurants in New Haven?
Well, thank you both, Kevin and Dewey, for having me on today and allowing me to speak. If not having indoor dining, 2020 has already been catastrophic for us business-wise. Not being able to continue with indoor dining will be even more catastrophic. We've had to pivot our business model, our branding, and everything during the year 2020. Without continuous indoor dining, we'll lose even more business than we've had thus far.
Mr. Dolch, can you speak widely for Connecticut's restaurant industry, jobs lost, business drop-off?
Yeah, obviously our industry pre-COVID was 160,000 employees, just about 10% of the state's workforce. We know on March 16th, that first 3 weeks of our initial that shutdown, we had over 80,000 employees go on unemployment. That's the word we've been battling throughout the summer and into the early fall, trying to get these employees back to work. And we've, obviously been seeing some increases, but a potential rollback beyond to where we are now will be, to Christina's point, will be catastrophic. And we'll see tens of thousands of employees go back on unemployment with really not a lot of safety net on a state or federal level on unemployment leading into the holidays. And I just hope that we don't have to do that. I hope that we can, hopefully flatten this curve and start to work to get our restaurants fully back open and see the other side of this pandemic.
Just to follow up on that, for retail, of course, November, the holiday season, is a large part of their profits that they make during the year, if they do. Is it the same for the restaurant? Is it the same for the restaurant industry with the holidays?
Absolutely, Kevin. I think, even with the kind of current restrictions, it's a challenge around Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday and New Year's is usually big times. A lot of our restaurants do catering and do big, larger private events, which has kind of been almost non-existent throughout this pandemic. And obviously up in the northern part of the state, Harford County specifically, when you look at numbers, obviously Shoreline you can expect in the summer does really well, where, typical, the Harford County region, Litchfield County, and obviously everybody realistically, but the best time of year for them is the November, December, January, February timeframe. So we're rolling into this with a lot of restrictions and, trying to build consumer confidence. We know that our restaurants are safe. They've been safe. They've been open for indoor dining for 4.5 months now, since June 17th. They're following extreme protocols, as Christina is down at Union League Cafe and many restaurants across the state. And we're hoping that we can stay where we are and also continue to get the people back in. So
let me ask you both, though, to respond to the fact that the CDC released a report in September that said adults with COVID-19 were twice as likely as the general population to have eaten at a restaurant 2 weeks before. When that came out, that definitely had an impact on people hearing that. Can you comment?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, Doobie. I think the big thing about all these CDC reports and everything else, and we've looked at that from the National Restaurant Association to the state of Connecticut, they only asked that one question. They didn't ask whether they went to a grocery store. Did they go to a package store? Did they go to a retail establishment as well? So I think, we haven't seen specific data that ties any COVID spread specific to a restaurant. We've been the 4.5 months prior to this rising cases, we've had indoor dining open. People have been eating inside in the late summer and early fall, and we've stayed underneath 1%. So I do think, yes, are people out more doing a lot of things that possibly get COVID? I would agree. It is a risk, that everyone takes, just like my kids going to school or, getting out every day to go see restaurants. But I'm hopeful that people understand that our restaurants are taking it to heart, and they will continue to be leaders in safety and sanitation to make sure that it is a safe environment for you to go out and support these local businesses.
The pandemic with the governor's first emergency order, he allowed restaurants to serve alcohol with their takeout orders. What else can the state of Connecticut do to assist you through this really difficult time?
Well, the state really needs to help us with another round of PPP. We are following the direction of Hartford and Washington and what we should do. Our main objective is to keep the community and our employees safe. In order to do that, we need help in closing our doors. Our restaurant business is foot traffic. We don't have foot traffic right now because of the guidelines, because of everyone telling everyone to stay in. There's hundreds of employees without jobs in New Haven. It is just crucially important that we get some help in order to stay in business.
Mr. Dolch, I'm sure you are following events in Washington and the federal stimulus package. Congressman Himes earlier in the show referenced how much that would help businesses. What should customers look for to conclude? And a question for both of you, if we have time. What should a customer look for to conclude that a restaurant is safe?
Well, yeah, and answering kind of Christina's question, obviously we're hoping the state can put some larger grant programs together specifically to our industry, like some other states around us have started to do. And then, I think I reach out to all the Connecticut, residents as you look to a restaurant, look at all the things that they're doing, from signage to plexiglass to sanitation to everyone wearing a mask, to follow their social media feeds as we talk about. Safety is probably now it's more important than it is, more so probably than what you're serving on the menu. And I think you're going to see, and I think they've already seen, when people were hesitant about going out to eat and outside dining in the summer, once people started to realize, wow, these restaurants are really taking it to heart. They're taking, more. They're going above and beyond, and they're doing that inside as well. And I think I kind of implore the patrons of Connecticut to go out and explore that. If you're willing to go into a grocery store, if you're willing to walk into, a package store or a home, whatever it might be, a retail establishment, take a peek into a restaurant. I bet you'll be pleasantly surprised that I will put our business sector up against any other industry.
Thank you both very much for joining us today. That's it for this edition of Face the State. Coming up, CBS Morning with Jane Pauley.
And join us next Sunday for our Political Books holiday edition of Face the State. Until then, happy Thanksgiving.